What's the story, everyone? Welcome back to Gaelic Games Fan TV. How are we all getting on? How is the form? So there we go then. Kerry, 32 points. Armagh, 124. We had Meath beating Galway as well, 216 to 215, and we're going to speak a bit about both of those games in this video. I'm still away here on a very lovely holiday, looking at a great view here of the hotel, just a brick wall. So happy days. But anyway. I suppose Armagh, they ran into a brick wall. Great metaphor there. Wow, Kerry, what a performance. I mean, goodness me. Jaw-dropping stuff, and nearly, you actually couldn't believe what you were witnessing, to be honest with you, because it was like, for that 15-20 minute spell where they kicked 14 points on the bounce from 13 scores as well. One of them was a 2-pointer. That was one of the best, I would say, passages of play I've ever seen from any team ever in Croke Park. And maybe for people who've been around longer than me have seen something a little bit better, but that was absolutely extraordinary. It reminded me quite a lot of Dublin versus Mayo 2019, where the game was level at half time. Dublin came out at the start of the second half and just completely blew Mayo away. It kind of reminded me a little bit of that, but I think this, to be honest with you, was even more impressive. Unbelievable stuff. And look, I have to hold the L. I predicted Armagh to win, like the majority of the country. And look, to be fair, I know Kerry fans will love to throw the shade and everything else, and look, rightly so. It's all part of the game. It's all a bit of a crack. It's a bit of banter at the end of the day. And look, Kerry were right, for the fans who did believe in them. There probably were a lot of fans this year who haven't believed in them, though, and it's no surprise that they've been calling for the fans to turn up, because I think even some of their own supporters wouldn't have believed that Kerry could have done this year. But look, it is shades of 2009. It's shades of Kerry of the past, where everyone's writing Kerry off. Everyone's kind of saying they're not as good as they are, and then they come out with a performance like that. Like, how many times down the years have we seen this? And there's almost a part of me that thinks maybe I should have seen it coming, because Kerry in general are a dangerous animal, but Kerry and Croke Park, when they're being written off against the All-Ireland champions, it did have the making, didn't it, of a scalp. And even when you were watching the opening couple of minutes, you were thinking, right, Sean O'Shea looks on it here, Clifford looks on it. Will Armagh be able to kind of keep with Kerry? And to be fair, for the opening half, for the opening 40 minutes, Armagh did really, really well. Ethan Rafferty, who struggled hugely on kickouts, was doing all right, I thought, in the first half. They were able to get the short kickouts out. Oisin Connaughty was playing a blinder. Rian O'Neill was playing very well as well. There was probably the likes of Andrew Murnan, maybe Rory Grugan, a little bit quiet, I felt, in the game, but Armagh were doing just about enough. They obviously get the goal, which comes from a mistake from Shane Ryan's kick out, and Armagh get the goal from that aspect. Joe McElroy playing well at different stages as well. And you're kind of thinking, like, Kerry, David Clifford started the game quite well, but then went a little bit quiet, and I thought Armagh defensively were doing quite well. They were doing a good job on him. They were limiting the ball to David Clifford, I felt. Clifford couldn't really get on the ball. But Sean O'Shea, lads, I mean, goodness me, like, what a performance. He was uncontested a lot of the time when he had the ball, but I do also think people just didn't, I don't think Armagh players or management probably expected Sean O'Shea to deliver a performance like that. Like, he was absolutely outrageous, wasn't he? He was really, really good, at different stages of the game. Some of the 2-pointers he was kicking, some of the individual points as well. Like, it was exceptional, absolutely exceptional, and probably kept Kerry in it a little bit the first half. Start of the second half, it's a 5-point game. You're thinking, this is where we probably expected Armagh to pull away, and Kerry to struggle, because that has kind of been the area where Kerry have struggled a little bit this year, has been the second half of matches. But no, Kerry had absolutely different answers, and as soon as Ethan Rafferty started struggling on kickouts, you could just feel sort of like the Kerry rising, the Kerry fans standing up, and they started kicking some unbelievable points. Paddy Clifford comes off the bench and makes a huge impact. Micheál Burns as well, lads. Like, what an impact that was off the bench. And you're kind of like that point he scored where, like, he sells the defender a shimmy, puts him on his backside and pops it over the bar. You're like, where was this? What on earth is going on here? Like, this is absolutely extraordinary. And yeah, some of the points they were kicking was just absolutely outrageous. Graham O'Sullivan was scoring points as well. He was kicking them over. They just couldn't miss. Everything was going over. And for Armagh, you could just feel, you could see it in the body language of the players. You could see it in Ethan Rafferty when he was kicking the ball out. They looked shell shocked. They looked like they honestly didn't know what to do at all. And it looked like, if you had said to the players, look, they probably wouldn't have, but if you had said to the players there and then, right, let's just end this game, they might have, because it was getting really, really bad. And it's kind of incredible. It finishes as an 8-point win for Kerry, but it feels like it nearly should have been more. And it was probably because of the fact that, look, Armagh were 5 points up when Kerry went on this run. And the mad thing is about it as well is that when I think Rian O'Neill kicks a point after the 14 on the bounce, 2 minutes later David Clifford scores a 2-pointer. Do you know what I mean? And that's just like energy sapping. And for Armagh, they did run out of ideas completely. Like, they were going for goals, probably forcing goals a little bit. I think they should have maybe started going for more 2-pointers. But again, you give away the possession, don't you? You lose the ball. And Armagh just ran out of ideas, to be honest with you. And, there's an age-old saying in sport, everyone has a plan, until they're punched in the face. And for Armagh, that was absolutely the case. They completely just ran out of ideas. They didn't have a plan. Maybe, like, I was kind of looking at it and kind of watching the highlights back this morning. And even as I was watching it live yesterday, you were thinking, maybe Armagh could do with like a player going down, like just kind of taking the sting out of Kerry. They kept doing the same things, Armagh. They kept going along with the kickouts from Ethan Rafferty, and it just wasn't working. It wasn't working at all. And you have to commend the Kerry midfield. For Kerry to have had their injuries and that they had, the likes of Sean O'Brien, I thought, had a very, very good game in around the middle there. Even Evan Looney, who came on for Tom O'Sullivan, I thought had a very good game as well. And Kerry players stood up. They stood up massively, and it was incredible to see. But yeah, maybe just a bit more like kind of game management or kind of street smart kind of type, kind of dark arts or something like that for Armagh, just to slow it down. You've seen Dublin do that many times down the years. You saw Kerry do it as well. Toronto, all the best teams have done it. Donegal, Armagh didn't do that in that moment, and maybe that was something that was missing. And it felt like, to me, they panicked a little bit. But look, fair play to Kerry. It was absolutely exceptional. And as I said before, one of the best, passages of play I've ever seen in Croke Park. And look, from here, it's you're kind of looking at it and thinking, Kerry have gone from being written off to probably now the All-Ireland favourites, really, after a performance like that. I think Donegal probably the only team that can stop them. But if Kerry play like that again in an All-Ireland final, I don't think anyone is stopping them, to be honest with you. It's kind of mad looking back at the scores as well. Like Sean O'Shea finishing with 12, David Clifford with 7. Paddy Clifford comes off the bench, gets 2. Micheál Burns gets 2. Conor Gainey gets pulled at half time. The question marks that people were having over Kerry in terms of not having enough outside of David Clifford, I think we're somewhat still validated for the opening 40-50 minutes of that game. Sean O'Shea was having the absolute game of his life, back to his kind of form from a couple of years ago. You couldn't have anticipated that. And, it was the bench, Paddy Clifford and Micheál Burns just adding a little bit more. And they've, obviously Paddy Clifford's been injured. You'd expect him to start the next day. Micheál Burns coming back. Maybe he'll start after a performance like that. Like, he was absolutely brilliant. But fair play to Kerry, and look, as a Dublin fan, left with egg on my face after that prediction. But look, you can't get them all right. And one I did get right, which a lot of people didn't expect, was Meath beating Galway, 2-16 to 2-15. This was a weird game, very scrappy in the first half. You were kind of watching it and thinking, Meath and Galway have been two of the two teams who've benefited the most from the new rules in terms of 2-pointers, in terms of high numbers and everything else. You look at what both of these two have been scoring this year. But in the first half, there was just a little bit of nervousness, I thought, from both teams. Meath were probably putting a few too many chances wide. Galway were just struggling to get ball into Walsh and kind of struggling to play their game. And you were kind of, it was just very kind of cat and mouse, wasn't it? I think 7 times the teams were level up until, Meath's first goal. And it was just very, very scrappy. But look, lads, fair play to Meath. I mean, they have, we know the quality of Jordan Morris. 1-6 on the day. He's gotten a lot of praise this year. But there was other players that impressed me personally watching this Meath team, as well as them. Obviously, like Kieran Caulfield. What a performance. I mean, that was exceptional performance from him. What a player he is as well. And then you're obviously looking at Sean Rafferty as well, who was exceptional defensively. Like some of the challenges, the blocks. There was one moment where I think he just cleaned out one of the Galway players. And you were thinking, wow, like that, the physicality shown there. We haven't seen that from a Meath team in God knows how long. And it's just absolutely mental, isn't it? Like for Meath football, look at where Meath have been in the last couple of years. They've, look at them last year even. Finished bottom of their group in the All-Ireland group stages. Got beaten to Kerry by 19 points. Got beaten to Dublin and Leinster, I think, by 16 points. Like they were being absolutely hammered left, right and centre. Lost to Louth, I think, last year in the group stages by like 11 or 12 points. I know they lost to Louth and Leinster this year as well. But for Robbie Brennan to have done the job that he has done is nothing short of remarkable, in my opinion. It's one of the stories of the year. It's probably manager of the year, in my opinion. To beat Dublin, Kerry and Galway in one season, it's just absolutely incredible. And we've praised Meath in terms of attack so much, but defensively yesterday they were brilliant. Billy Hogan on kickouts, I thought, as well, was really, really good. Maybe shouldn't have been taking the 45s. I think he missed all of them. So maybe that's something they probably should look at for the next game. Maybe put a Jordan Morris over them or something like that. Matthew Costello was very good as well. He kicked 4 points. He was outstanding. Really, really good performance from him. I've said previously, I think he's definitely in the mix for an All-Star. Maybe even Footballer of the Year as well. Although I think probably David Clifford is maybe shading it, I would say, in terms of Footballer of the Year right now. But Matthew Costello was absolutely outstanding. And look, as a Dublin fan, it's hard to watch. It's hard to see as a rival. There is a part of me it's nice to see Meath back. I would have just liked Dublin to have still been there. A Dublin Meath All-Ireland semi-final, could you have imagined it? It would have been incredible. But look, we're not going to get that, because Dublin have regressed. And look, it's incredible to see from Meath, and fair play to them. I backed them to win this game. I just thought Galway were flat coming into this. Murmurings about Walsh. Was Walsh going to be right? He kicked 5 points, to be fair, and I don't think this game was down to him. I think they were needing a bit more from elsewhere. Paul Conroy, I thought, was very quiet in the game. Rob Finnerty had a couple of moments. Matthew Tierney was quiet. And for Galway, unfortunately, it's just, they've put a lot in over the last couple of years. They put a lot in this year as well. And they've just been caught. They've just been caught. They had that moment where they scored 2-3 without reply. And you're thinking, right, they're going to turn this around here and they're going to probably kick on and win. And for me to actually respond after that was so impressive. Jordan Morris with a brilliant goal. And yeah, just unusual from Galway at certain aspects of the game, like some poor passes and everything else, running into blind alleys. I know a lot of people were criticising the referee. I thought the referee let a lot go for both teams, and I liked it, to be fair. I thought it kind of helped the flow of the game. But yeah, incredible result and performance from Meath football, and they deserve huge credit for how they played. Look, the semi-final draw will be Meath, Donegal, Tyrone, Kerry. It looks all set up for a Kerry Donegal final, and what a game that would be. Absolutely box office. But look, Meath are still there. They'll give Donegal a good game, I've no question about it. You would fancy Donegal. I don't think Donegal will be, will make the same mistakes as Galway have made, and I think Donegal are a much better team than Galway. So at this moment in time, you'd fancy Galway. And looking at how well Kerry played, it's very hard to bet against them against Tyrone. But Tyrone, are the type of team as well that love to spoil a party and love to be written off as well. So they'll enjoy going into that game as underdogs, and maybe shades of 2021 when Tyrone beat Kerry that year and went on to win Sam. So yeah, look, that's the end of the video. Let me know your thoughts, your opinions in the comments. Fair play to Kerry, fair play to Meath. As a Dublin fan, hard to sit there on a holiday and watch your two biggest rivals get to an All-Ireland semi, but fair play to both of them, and hopefully they both lose next, in the semis, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, cheers anyone tuned in. If you could hit the like button and subscribe, that would be appreciated, and we'll speak to y'all soon.